Hey guys, in today's video, I'm going to teach you how you can reach out to hundreds of local businesses using AI agents. I'm actually going to teach you how using n8n, which is an automation workflow, we're going to go from finding hundreds of leads using the Google Maps API to actually having a browser agent who will figure out where the contact us page lies and fill out the form for you. I'm going to teach you every single step. The code is going to be available. You can just download it at the end. So let's get going. There are 5 main steps. The first one will be installing n8n to run on our computer. So this is the workflow automation platform that I was telling you about. It can either run on the cloud, but we're going to have to set it up locally because there are certain configurations that are not available on the cloud. So this is going to be the first step. Then second step will be to actually install the Firecrawl node. So maybe you've heard about Firecrawl. Firecrawl is using LLMs to allow you to scrape, crawl websites and retrieve information from those websites. This is going to be helpful for us to figure out where the contact page lies, to figure out the fields of the contact forms and so on. So super critical. And so the only way we can use this tool within n8n is by actually downloading a community node. n8n is open source. So the beauty of it is that in comparison with the Zapier or Make, you can actually create your own nodes. So here is basically this person who created this specific integration for Firecrawl to run with n8n. So it's going to have all the functionalities of Firecrawl readily available in n8n. So we do actually need to run it locally for that reason. Then the third step would be to download the workflow. So if we look at the workflow that is running here, you can see it's running on my local host. But again, like one of the advantages of n8n is that it's generating a large JSON file. So if we go over here, you can see that I've actually exported the workflow, and I'm going to show you how you can very easily import this into your n8n in order to get started with my existing workflow. And then I think, what else? Yes, then we also need to integrate with Google Sheets. We're basically going to have to create the authentication to access Google, the Google products, so Google Drive and Google Sheets in this case. And then finally, because we're using Firecrawl n8n, we're going to have to set up some API keys. So yeah, we're just going to go over that. There are some additional tools that we're going to have to connect with, especially AnchorBrowser to interact with the contact forms. And finally, we're also going to be using Serper Dev, which is kind of a wrapper that allows you to interact with the different Google API products. So in our case, we're going to be using Google Maps. As you can see, it's there, right? So to get started, there's this first step, which is to download n8n to run locally. So I'm just going to give you those commands, but hopefully this was clear. Again, those different sections are chapters. So if you're familiar with any of these sections, just skip them. I won't take it as an offense. And yeah, let's get going with step 1 now. All right, so step 1, we're gonna have to download n8n. If you don't have already Node installed on your computer, there are those 2 commands that you will have to run. So if you just go over to your terminal, here I created a folder called n8n tutorial. You can just create your own folder. You basically have to run those 2 commands. You can very easily ask ChatGPT or Claude on how to install Node. And then the second thing, which is more important in the context of this tutorial, is to run this command. So you will run it. I already have it installed, so I will not run it again. And then finally, you're gonna run this command. What it's gonna do is, if I just call it n8n start, then you press O, and then it's gonna actually open up your n8n locally, right? And this is how we're gonna have to get started. You can configure your credentials, but this is, if you don't have n8n, you have to sign up, obviously. But there's a free trial. I think it's like 7 or 14 days to play around with the tool. And then you can just use it locally. Now we're done with step 1. So congratulations. Step 2 is to download the Firecrawl community node. So to do that, you have to go to settings. And then you're going to see here locally, you have community nodes. I think here you can browse. If you type Firecrawl, right? So you have it there and you have this command. So you just copy paste this command. You go back here, you paste it there, npm package name. So you just found it on the directory, and you can find many other nodes and many other integrations, which is the whole point of using n8n in this case. You understand the risk and then you press install. I have it installed, so I won't do it again, but you can see it's installed there. And the importance of doing that is now if we create a new node, it's there, right? However, if you go to the traditional n8n, you're going to see that it doesn't exist. So This is the reason why it was important to set it up. So now we've installed n8n Firecrawl on our local host, right? So I think this is already something worth celebrating. Then I have this workflow. I'm gonna be sharing with you the link, but I actually created this Dropbox folder where you have the file. So what you're gonna do is just download it. Yeah, you basically have to download this file and then go over to n8n again. So if I just create a workflow, then you go over to import from file. In my case, it's n8n tutorial. There we go, right? So it imported the JSON file with all the different nodes and the configurations. Right, so now we're done with those first 3 steps, right? So installing n8n, installing the Firecrawl node, importing the workflow. Now we have to set up the Google credentials and API keys. The reason for that is, as you can see here, I'm calling Google Sheets, and we're going to have to create new credentials. So I'm going to show you how this works. So the way this works is you can skip this section if you're already familiar with it, but you're going to go over to Google Cloud Console, right? Perfect. Now you're going to go and create a new project. I think it's easiest. n8n live, create n8n live. Okay, great. Now we're there. And now we're going to have to create the credentials to access the the Google products. So the way this works is you're going to have to head over to your n8n live. So you can see, you just follow the steps. You can just type n8n live. Here I'm just adding my email. Audience, it's internal. It's not an app. This is my company, right? So then you create the configuration of the project. It's basically if anything goes wrong with the authentication, those are like the contact details that Google will have access to connect the users with you. So create auth client. So this is what we need to do. Now we need to define it's a web application, n8n live. And then what's important here is to redirect to the relevant n8n localhost URL. So this is maybe just, okay, so I'm just gonna steal it from another account that I have from other instances. If I go over here, credentials, n8n tutorial. All right, so you basically need to get this localhost. It's going to redirect when you authenticate to this URL, which is coming from n8n. So I'm just going to add it there, right? Just copy pasting the old way. And then it generated the client ID and the client secret. So you can either download it here or just press OK, and it's going to redirect you. So if you go over here, perfect. So we have the client secret and we have the client ID. Now you can head over to the credential here. And then if you are to create a new set of credentials, you just keep the OAuth2, which is just like an authentication method. And then you're just going to copy paste those values, right? So client secret are going to be added there. And then you're going to have the client ID that you're going to add over here. You press save, click sign in, and then it's basically going through the authentication, right? So it's telling you the kind of scopes, so what this integration will allow you to do. So view all of this. Actually, what's important, and I've just realized, there's this last step that I skipped, which is to enable certain products from Google. So you have to actually define the scopes. You have to enable those tools that you want to have access to. So you click here, and then you click enable. This is gonna, given your client secret and client ID, it's gonna allow you to tap into everything from Google Drive API, and you have to do the same for Sheets, additional API. Great, so now you can see that we are integrated. Perfect. So if we just go over here, you can see account connected, right? So this means that we're gonna be able to interact and find the different files. n8n tutorial, it's actually gonna retrieve the list of that we have in our drive and that we can then interact with. Cool, so now we're gonna configure everything with the rest of the API keys, and yeah, let's go. All right, cool. So now we are done with the first 4 steps. We set up the Google credentials, we have the workflow. So now we're basically just gonna have to figure out and set up the API keys throughout the workflow for Serper, AnchorBrowser, and Firecrawl, as well as OpenAI, because we're going to be using some LLMs throughout the workflow, and I'm going to show you. So I've just renamed the nodes here. So in this case, you're Just going to go to Serper, right? You sign up, you get your API key, you add it there, right, in the value, and that's pretty much it for Serper. Then here you're gonna set up your authentication with the client secret and client ID that you're gonna be able to use it later on. Here for Firecrawl, you're gonna create a new set of credentials, and you keep the base URL unchanged. You just add the API key, which is the one that you're gonna be getting from your dashboard. And then here you're going to add your credentials again for Google Sheets. Firecrawl, you're going to add the same sessions. Here you're going to be adding in the model an account, an OpenAI account. So you just create a new credential, you go to API key. I think it's just going to OpenAI billing. I think you're gonna figure it out. If you're here today, you probably know how to get your OpenAI API key. So you add it there. And then finally, we have the AnchorBrowser API key that we have to add there as well. So you just go and get it from AnchorBrowser. AnchorBrowser up. What's very nice with AnchorBrowser is that it's entirely pay-per-use. So it's not like a pricey, it's not pricey at all. And then finally, yes, you just have to add the OpenAI key as well here. Perfect. So now I'm gonna run the workflow, show you how to interact with the tool, how to make the most of it, and how you can, more importantly, configure it so that you are targeting the right companies and sharing the right information about your company to fill out those forms. So let's go. Okay, so now the is running. Awesome. So now you can see I have filled out the contact form with the provided information, right? So basically what it did is it looked up here for HVAC companies, which are added here. So there are air conditioning. So you can see that here in a couple of seconds, we got 90 leads, basically. Now that we have those 90 leads, I'm just removing duplicates. I'm filtering out just for the purpose of this tutorial so that we just run through 2 of them. We're looping, and the reason I'm looping here is because we have a number of requests per minute. Here, I'm basically using Firecrawl, which is using the sitemap of the website to figure out, okay, what is the URL where the contact page lies? So it's the first one, right? It's the most relevant one. So I'm just going to return that most relevant URL, just using some code for data wrangling. I'm adding those URLs. And then with Firecrawl, I'm actually asking what are the fields from the contact form. So as an input, we have those 2 URLs, right? Contact us pages. And then as part of the extract, so you can see here the action is extract. We're extracting the fields of the contact form. And this is going to be super helpful once we are asking the LLM here to actually match the data from these contact forms with whatever information that we have about our own company. So if you are to use this workflow, this is where you would be configuring your stuff. So relevant fields, you would change your first name, last name, your relevant information. All of this is dummy data. You can update this message based on the services that you offer. You can customize it further. And then once you have outputted this, it's actually gonna know, okay, so we have this contact form where there's a label phone number with this value, right? So this is my phone number that I've provided. And then it's gonna basically use the AI agent to interact with the form and fill it out. And you can see here that the result is that it was successfully submitted. In the first case, it broke and actually returned you an email, which is always nice. But maybe like the contact form was down or something like that. So we'll have to figure it out. But you can imagine that if you are to run this automatically with hundreds of leads, all of this would be running in the background. And what you could do later on is just use those phone numbers and call them in 1 week and say, hey, have you read my email? I'm offering those services. I have lots of real estate developers who are looking for your services. I see that you have 2,200 ratings, 4.8. I want to connect them with trusted vendors. So if you're interested, just let me know. This usually works well if you complement them. So yeah, that's pretty much how the workflow works. Like I mentioned, you're going to be able to download all of the code. If you need help implementing this, you can reach out to me to this email, Vladimir@elementsagents.com. This is my website, elementsagents.com. I build AI agents for companies every week, if not every day. So I'm comfortable. I've been going over this for quite some time. That's pretty much it. So hopefully you enjoyed this little tutorial using n8n to automate your outreach to local companies. If you're struggling with this workflow, there's a calendar link in the comment section. You have it here also on my website. You can just book something here. So yeah, thank you, and see you soon with more AI agents use cases.